myself and the panel before we get started. My name is Tiina Neuvonen, and I work as a strategic foresight lead at the United Nations Global Pulse. And I am joined by these two government pioneers in foresight. So we have Lina Valencia from the National Planning Department of Colombia. She's the Director of Governance and Human Rights and Peace. So welcome, Lina.
Thank you, Tiina.
You made a long journey to be here. And then we have Dr. Aminah Zawedde, the Permanent Secretary from the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance from Uganda. Warmly welcome, Aminah.
Thank you very much.
So we have two stories from Uganda and Colombia to share with you today. And in the end, we also wanted to have an engagement with you, so please have your questions ready. There will be an opportunity to ask questions once we get to the end, and we try to keep the presentations fairly short, so there's time to have that conversation with you all as well. The organization I represent is United Nations Global Pulse. Global Pulse is the Secretary General's Innovation Lab and Hub for Experimentation. And we work at the intersection of innovation and human sciences, mainly with the UN system, but also with all those who the UN serves, so the governments, communities, and other partners as well, to adapt and respond to the challenges of today and tomorrow. And we work through and with partners. In the case of Colombia and Uganda, we had a pleasure of collaborating with UNFPA in Colombia. I think we have at least one person here who was part of the cooperation, and in Uganda we are working with Global Pulse colleagues in Uganda. So maybe you can also give us a little wave and just identify yourself. Thank you for being here. So as you can see, it takes a village to run a foresight exercise. So luckily we get a lot of help. So what do? We are focused on transformation. I think that's how foresight is often positioned, as a driver of transformation. We support our common agenda, and how we drive change is mainly through the quintet of change. This is a set of new skills, capabilities, and cultures that we are promoting. And these are data, digital, innovation, behavioral science, and of course, strategic foresight as well. But also strategic foresight is not positioned as silver bullet, but as one of the tools in the toolkit that we are learning by doing to apply, to create more value. Although the two stories we are going to hear soon are quite different, we are already identifying some common denominators when it comes to successful and impactful and sustainable foresight projects and activities. They have some things in common. And what we are often seeing that there's definitely a connection to local culture and needs. So you just can't copy-paste an approach from one context. But you really need to find your own entry points that resonate with the local culture and need. Also, we see that although we have all these brilliant toolkits and methodologies, it takes a lot of work to contextualize your foresight and really find the people who drive the process as well. We also believe that foresight, when done right, is inclusive and participatory, and often how we position with my team as well is as enablers and kind of helpers who help the people, communities. We work with youth groups. I see Joshua's there. From UNICEF fellows, to really build the processes that they can own and use the metaphors and the language that they can identify with, rather than UN jargon, which we are guilty of using far too much. And another important thing is accountability. And I think what we are seeing with Uganda and Colombia as well is that there is follow-up. The government is listening. Too often you see foresight exercises that are just run as a one-off, but there's no follow-up because of lack of resources or other reasons. Maybe it doesn't tie with the decision-making processes, or there are other issues like that. But what is really important that you really have that accountability to the community, to the policymakers, to the people who are part of the process as well. And I think in the previous presentation, which was about monitoring and evaluation, check out that APF guide. It's really brilliant on measuring the impact of Foresight. But is that there's a lot of focus on learning and not trying to be perfect right away, but really put a lot of value for learning by doing and also driving that culture shift of long-term thinking, because it is something that's not conventionally built in the processes and decision making and how we consult and collect data. So it's a process. But with this, I would now like to hand it over to Lina to hear the story from Colombia, which is focused on participatory foresight, but so much more as well. So over to you, Lina.
Thank you, Tiina. Hi, everyone. Hi, Aminah.
Hi.
Happy to be here with you. I'd like to start, if it's okay with you, asking a question to the audience. Who here have heard about Colombia? Colombians, don't count, please. So, yeah. And let me guess, what you've heard is that Colombia is a beautiful country, probably that Colombia produces great coffee, that's the country where Shakira comes from, right? But also, probably you've heard that Colombia is a country that has issues with violence and conflict, right? That's all true. So I want to tell you a little bit about my country today and about a Foresight project that we made with UNFPA and Global Pulse in Colombia. So I'd like to start just by telling you that, as I said, and as you know, Colombia is a great country. It's the second most biodiverse country in the world. We have at least 115 indigenous people communities. We have at least 300 community councils of Afro-Colombian people, and we also have Romani people, at least 33,000 Romani people in the country. So we're biodiverse and we're culturally diverse too. We have the Amazonian forest, as you may know, but we also have the Andes Peaks, and the Andes Peaks in my country divide in three. So that makes like great valleys and canyons, but we also have snow peaks. And we have a great river that's called the Magdalena River that goes from the south to the north of the country, and it flows into the Atlantic Ocean in the Caribbean Sea. But we also have the Pacific Ocean. Actually, I'd like to recommend a great book written by Wade Davis. He's a Canadian author that narrates through the flow of the river the story of real characters that he encountered by the riverside. And the book tells how these beautiful landscapes I'm talking about contrast with really, really, really harsh realities in our country. And, oh, sorry. So as I was telling you, historically, Colombia has been following and implementing development models that not necessarily match with that diversity I was talking about earlier. And so institutions forgot many territories in our country. So there are many places in Colombia that have never gotten any public goods or services or public services, and their population never got that on those places, and that has been the origin of a deep gap between urban areas and rural areas. And that's really important because probably or somehow that gap had a lot to do with the armed conflict. So I'm sorry, these notes aren't in order, I'm sorry. So Recently we've had significant milestones regarding change, for example, and yesterday someone was talking about it. In 2016, we had the peace process with the FARC, which was a rebel group, a guerrilla, and that was amazing. That brought a lot of hope to our country. But we had at the time a great challenge that's still a challenge, and it's that we institutions didn't get effectively to those places and those territories where the FARC used to be. So what happened is that new armed groups emerged on those places and took control of the territories and of the people that live in those territories. Our current government is trying to make new peace processes and new dialogues with those groups and other rebel groups. So we're trying now to dialogue at the same time with at least 9 groups, all at the same time. That's what our government calls the total peace, because we're trying to do it like with everyone right now. And nevertheless, and even though this really gives me hope, but I have to confess, I don't understand why or how people in my country still have hope that their reality is going to change. So right now, we have the political will to change things. Right now, I think people still want to try and do things. Yesterday, someone also was talking about how the victims in Colombia, there are 9 million victims of the conflict. That's around 10% of the population of Colombia. And those are the people who are willing to try something different and collaborate with institutions and other actors to do things differently. So, as we were talking yesterday, I think this is the right momentum. But this is the right momentum, but it gives us like a major responsibility. So we've been trying to do this for a long time. We need to make it right this time. And the question right now is how we make it differently and how we make it right. So how can we now build a fairer, more diverse, equitable, and inclusive futures in Colombia? And how would those futures would look like? And I'm going to skip this because we don't have time. Well, I'm just going to say one thing about this slide, and it's that in Colombia, institutions are really not meeting, not only we're not meeting citizen expectations, but we're not attacking the root causes of our problems. We're probably just giving some kind of relief, but we're not attacking the root causes of our problems. So, with the UNFPA and Global Pulse, we came to, trying to answer those questions I just made, we came to build this project and to implement this project that was trying to build collective visions of the future in these territories I was telling you about. We went to the region of Chocó. The Chocó region is on the Pacific coastline, and it's mainly inhabited by Afro-descendant communities. And we also went to the Amazonas. There, we co-created with communities, mostly with young leaders at the beginning, but then when we went to the territories, we worked with women, we worked with the communities, the elders, LGBTQ plus communities, etc. We worked with everyone. And we co-created this methodology that somehow combined strategic foresight, participatory foresight, but also mixed with their beliefs, their ancestral customs, etc. And in the Chocó, and in both cases, we used the metaphor of a tree, because a tree was fundamental and essential for them thinking when thinking about the future. So we said with them that, for example, the seeds of the tree was that shared vision that we were building. The trunk of the tree was the actions every actors, included the communities, need to do to make those ideas a reality. The fruits and the leaves were the results or the outcomes of making those things happening. The birds, for example, were the actors or the stakeholders they needed to make that a reality. The water was the context they needed for things to happen. So it was really great. We built everything from ground with them. And for example, we came to it's a region that's been hit like really hard by violence. So people is really worried about their human rights. And they're also worried because they don't believe or they don't think they have enough access and knowledge about technology. So those two things combined gave us that by 2050 they want to have a technological center that allow them to monitor and evaluate how human rights are being respected in the region. In the case of the Amazonas, this is hard. I'm sorry. In the case of the Amazonas, they want a laboratory located in Amaloca. Amaloca is like a secret place of gathering for indigenous people in Colombia. So they wanted to build Amaloca and a laboratory that allow them to make research and everything in there. So what we learned from these experiences, first of all, bless you. First of all, we learned that meaningful participation is not only necessary, but it is possible. It's not always easy. It's hard to do, and when you're talking about ethnic population, it's even harder to do. But we certainly need to do it. The second thing, The second thing we learned about this project is that what we thought was an experiment, because we started it as if it was an experiment, turned out to be a case of study. So with UNFPA and with the UN Global Pulse, we documented the whole experience. And we created a toolbox that we are now using in the country, that we're taking to the regions and to other institutions in the country. And we also learned that these kind of exercises and these kind of experiences are allowing us to reconfigure our regional, the way we see the regional development. Because as I told you before, we realized that people are willing to work with institutions, are willing to work with one another despite their differences, and still have hope that in Colombia there can be other kind of future or futures. So as I told you, and in the regional level, and in the National Planning Department, we were really committed to bring these kind of experiments to other parts of the country. Right now, and in December, we will be doing something similar in the Caribbean region. So we're bringing this to more other places in the country. And we are convinced that Colombia, from here, can become a global leader of this kind of exercises and participatory foresight and future design experiences. And to wrap this, I'd just like to give you some food for thought with this quote that an elder leader, indigenous leader, told us in the Amazonas when we were there. He said, "Together we are all gathered here, all generations and communities, harvesting the world." We were talking about the seeds and the tree, harvesting the world to be able to care for and nourish what will be the fruits of the future. So I'd like just to wrap this saying that these, right now, these kind of experiences, these kind of issues are national matters and national issues right now. But really soon, if not now, these are global matters. We're talking about the Amazonian forest here. This is a global matter. So these kind of exercises should be, the whole world should be interested in joining us, helping us, and supporting us in these kind of exercises. Thanks, Tiina. That would be all.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Lina. And apologies, the AC and asthma is a bad combination, but
You okay?
yeah, all good. And thank you so much for this, and it's been hugely inspiring as well, like with this history of conflict and urban-rural divide and all that. You took Foresight as a tool to build more inclusive future and really doing the participation. I think we were also amazed how the government made a long trip to Quito in the Amazonas, and you went there to listen to the community. You didn't ask them to come to you,
Yeah.
but you did it the other way around. And using these metaphors, we could really develop a foresight process with the indigenous people, and they could own it. They could understand it. They could go run away with it. So it's not something that we take from Foresight playbook. Uganda around the data strategy engagement that is still ongoing. So over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Lina and Tiina, and good afternoon to you all.
Lina, Tiina, Aminah.
I will also ask a similar question. Who knows where Uganda is? Yeah, well, you know, it's amazing how we have some kind of similarity in terms of the longest river you were describing in Colombia. We also pride in having the longest river in Africa and probably in the world. River Nile flows from the largest lake in the largest lake, Lake Victoria, and flows up to through Sudan to Libya to Egypt and flows into the Mediterranean Sea. So you can literally follow the river up to the north, you know, in Africa. So, you know, those are some of the similarities we have. And to the implementation of the, you know, future and foresight approach or model, we similarly, you know, have kind of a similar experience. But I will speak to some of the things that we have done prior to adopting the future and foresight strategy. Uganda, under the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, we even have a very unique name for our ministry. The Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, many times people ask me, why national guidance? But let me just give you, you know, a quick brief of why. You know, with the digital transformation agenda, there is a lot. For all the sessions that I have attended since yesterday and today, just before, you know, we came on the set, people are talking about, you know, mindset change, you know, bringing the human aspect to technology and all that. So as we do digital transformation, we are mindful of the fact that we have to be aggressive in doing a lot of change management and mindset change. So that is why we have the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance combined in one ministry. We also do communicate on behalf of government to the citizens what government is doing. So there's a lot to do between, actually today I think we realize the thin line between technology and PR, or technology and communication. So whatever we do, we also have to think about, you know, a very good communication strategy to come up with in order for us to measure the impact of our programs. So in August this year, the Vice President of Uganda, she's a lady called Her Excellency Jessica Alupo, presided over the launch of our digital transformation roadmap. The roadmap is a 5-year roadmap that is supporting us to assess how we are able to realize the targets that we are set in our National Development Plan and the targets that were set in our Digital Uganda Vision 2040, but also targets that are set in the Sustainable Development Goals. So we have all these goals, but how do you walk that journey? So this in the ICT sector, this digital transformation roadmap is supporting us to guide the country. The various stakeholders, public sector, private sector, development partners, civil society, academia, name it, that what are the priorities we have for the next 5 years, and they are infrastructure and connectivity. We want to ensure that, the entire country in the underserved, areas, we have connectivity, and we have infrastructure in terms of devices and gadgets, computers, laptops, etc. Then the other priority is digital services, taking all services online and ensuring that we have the right services that inform our planning. The national data strategy that we are planning is one of those services that we have to, look up to. And then because the need for us to have data-driven planning, data-driven decision making is very critical. Then the third area of emphasis or priority is cybersecurity, data protection, and privacy. Because as we take services online, as we talk about the different conversations that we are having today, we have to be assured that we are operating in a protected and safe environment. Then the fourth area is digital skilling. If you don't have the required skill sets, Uganda, I forgot to tell you, is one of those countries with the youngest population in the world. We have a population of about 45 million people, and over 30 million are below the age of 30 years old. And the average, who can guess the average age?
19?
15 to 16 years old.
Wow.
That is our average age. So, those are the kind of people we are planning for. So skilling them, ensuring that we have the skill sets for for a farmer, for a market vendor to navigate an application, intermediate skills for the generation that is going to plan for our country in the few years to come is very important for us. And also the specialized skills for the kind of things we are seeing here today. When we're looking at Dubai Future Forum, looking in the future, some of the things you're talking about for the future maybe are still so many years to come for Uganda currently. But we have, we cannot be blinded, or we cannot step out of the conversation, but have to be a part of it. So we are mindful that we have to get the advanced skill sets for us to manage and cope with the future. Then the last area of focus or priority is innovation and entrepreneurship. That is the fifth. So it's a 5-year roadmap with 5 areas. Now, why innovation and entrepreneurship? I've talked about the youngest population that we have. We have over 30,000 students graduating out of universities, the different universities we have every year. They have very innovative and creative ideas. We have a number of challenges that require solutions that are homegrown, because these people are living in these communities, societies, and appreciate the challenges they are facing, and therefore the best people to come up with the solutions that we need. So we have to support the innovation ecosystem with the kind of regulatory environment, with the infrastructure, and so on and so forth that we need to grow some of these innovations up to unicorns. We can do that. We can generate revenue for our people, and also support the region with solutions. So in that space, when the Futures and Foresight's strategy came into play, we have been working with a lot of development partners. UN Global Pulse is one of those that we work closely with. And one of the things we have that we have on our priority list is coming up with data registries for the various sectors. We have key sectors that we are looking at to support and develop. We have the education sector, definitely, the health sector, agriculture sector, because Uganda's backbone is agriculture, the backbone of our economy. We have the tourism sector, and so the Foresight, Future Foresight strategy, when it came into play, it is one of those strategies that was helping us to build a shared vision amongst all the stakeholders we have, to manage the risks that everyone thinks they are in the various sectors, then create awareness and agility. I told you about the national guidance aspect, we are aware of that, and also to strengthen participation of the different stakeholders. Without wasting a lot of time, I'll just take you through some of the things we did. Of course, we created a number of scenarios were generated on what we need to do, or what we need to do to put in place to achieve and realize our digital transformation roadmap objectives. But also another scenario was that in the event that we don't realize, our intentions or objectives of the roadmap, what will Uganda suffer from in 2050? Those are the scenarios that were generated, and I'm going to play a 3-minute video of what we went through. Just a moment, and that will speak to the lessons that we learned in the process, and maybe some of the challenges that we expect.
Scenario 1, Enhanced Lives, a success story. The year is 2050. The effective implementation of Uganda's national data strategy propelled the nation into a vibrant data-driven country, fostering economic growth and social progress. The citizens have a direct say in allocation of tax funds, boosting social equity and access to basic services. Uganda's investment in ICT infrastructure has paid off, with data infrastructure now reaching every corner of the country. Thriving data-driven startups become magnets for investments, creating a fertile ground for employment, innovation hubs, and research centers. The adoption of digital literacy and data control empowers individuals to shape their roles and maximize technology's potential. For instance, farmers optimize crop production with data-driven insights. Education sees the emergence of tailor-made learning programs addressing individual learning gaps. Data-driven technologies also play a key role in waste management and recycling, including digital waste, making Uganda a pioneering nation in the region. Scenario 2, tech utilitarianism, lost control and missed opportunities. In 2050, the world is irrevocably altered by artificial intelligence, and a dark reality has unfolded for Uganda. AI has evolved into a cold, all-encompassing superintelligence with superior capabilities stretching across many aspects, including intelligence, cognition, social skills, and creativity. It reigns supreme over humanity, able to solve basically any technical and scientific challenge that humanity could not. They control every aspect of society. Every move, every word, and every thought are monitored and documented. Data is used to benefit elites in and outside of Uganda, leaving the citizens vulnerable to exploitation and to their own resources for survival. Citizens acknowledge the price they pay, surrendering their privacy and autonomy in exchange for basic services and goods critical for survival. AI and big tech dominancy affect the moral fabric of Ugandan society. Uganda has become reliant on other countries for vital infrastructure development and data utilization. This dependency amplifies inefficiencies in essential public service delivery, such as education infrastructure, plunging the nation into a downward spiral of mismanagement and stagnation. Technology development in the country is primarily driven and controlled by international private companies, leading to a concentration of power and influence in the hands of these entities. While AI has made some contributions in mitigating the impact of climate change, it only happens if private companies owning data can make an economic profit. This issue remains a persistent and complex problem that requires sustained efforts and comprehensive solutions from all stakeholders.
Well, that is a summary of what happened. And these are the scenarios that we looked at. This is me and my team, together with the people who did role play as the media, academia, government, representation, the private sector, and the citizen. So sometimes when people sit in the, it is what some of the lessons we learned were that, when you sit in the place of government as a citizen, then you know the mindset of government, what government is trying to achieve and realize, instead of punching government or abusing it for whatever faults it has. And on the other hand, government also gets to appreciate what the citizen wants. And then media as well. So you work, from the same level and understanding as you come up with different interventions. And in that respect, we all own the interventions that we come up with. So we use this tested approach to support us to scale up and sustain the adoption of programs and policies in other parastate or government organizations. That is what we want to do as a government. Of course, starting with the ICT sector, where this approach has been first tested, and we have seen that there is positive attitude and appreciation towards the use of this approach and methodology. So thank you for listening to me and to the experience of Uganda using the Future and Foresight.
Thank you so much,
So
Aminah.
back to
that
you,
was fascinating.
Tiina. Thank you.
And really beautiful storytelling as well with the local artists. I think this is so important that when we get insights, we also communicate in a way that people can relate to them and own the stories, and that can really drive change in so many ways. Okay, I think we have still time for a few questions from the audience. So there's quite a few hands up, and I think we have a mic circulating here. Maybe the lady here, I think she was first. Could you introduce yourself and let us know what's your question?
Thank you very much for this very interesting session. I have two questions for the ladies. The first is about cultural process.
Can you put the mic a little
The first question is about the cultural rooted process. Are there similarities, sorry for my French accent, in the two processes? I mean that it's a bottom-up process. So what was the challenges in terms of cultural rooted regarding the diversity of the stakeholders? My second question, because we have the chance of our ministry and a national representative, Foresight is not only a matter of outcomes, but also of process. So what are the guarantee of the sustainability of the process as an iterative process and not a one-shot process? Everybody is happy about the result, apparently, but in the long term, what are the guarantee of the sustainability and the transformation of the Colombian and also of the Uganda society? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the question. May I just repeat so just to make sure we got the question right? So first of all, how was the cultural diversity managed in the process, and what were the obstacles and how you overcame them, and then also how do you work on making these processes more sustainable to drive transformation? Okay, so two questions. I think we take one more, and then we let the ladies respond to the ones that they want. Maybe one more. We have a gentleman there. Thank you.
Thank you for the wonderful presentations. I'm Simba from Zimbabwe. My question is directed at Her Excellency the Minister from Uganda. After this work, a magnificent piece of work, in your own, the way you see it, what is the level of political commitment to work with this? Because what we understand as African countries is that the many problems we are trying to solve at the moment kind of hinder our efforts to look at the long term. We always find ourselves trapped in the presentist bias, where we say this is more important than the future, which we don't know. So I want to find from you what is the level of will and political commitment from the leaders. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the question. And I think, unfortunately, we don't have much time, so really short and snappy answers. Maybe we can start with Lina, if you want to take some of these or all of the questions, but just key points.
Right. Regarding the first question and regarding the obstacles, in our case, it was mainly like cultural obstacles, the language, the customs, the beliefs, and how to get these communities to actually believe and own this process. We got to do it because, as I said, people still have hope. I don't know why and how, but people still have hope and want to build different and better futures for them. So I think that was maybe the key. There's a context in Colombia where people still want to or want to try and are willing to do things differently, the communities, I mean. And the institutions in some cases too, so that was key for us. And for the second part of your question, regarding the long term, we're talking about that yesterday too. I think it's, this is just for us, this is just the beginning. And we have many big, great and significant challenges to keep doing this, but we are doing everything we can from our institution to make this systematic. So from now on, what we are gonna do is like apply this kind of, or implement this kind of processes and tools for designing and implementing and evaluating public policy in our country.
Great. And then maybe over to Aminah. Would you be able to address really shortly that political commitment question? Because I think,
yes.
Thank you.
First of all, Simba, I would like to correct you. I'm not the minister. Otherwise, my minister would fire me after here. I am the, I'm the permanent secretary, the technical lead of the ministry. Now, in terms of whether there is a political commitment or what level of commitment we have, I think I being in this conversation today is one sign of commitment that we have at that level, and so we cannot take that for granted. The role of the permanent secretary is to advise the minister, but currently, at the moment, one of the priorities of our government is, among the priorities we have is ICT. So the head, right from the head of state, parliament, cabinet, everybody, is committed to seeing digital transformation as a key to one of the things that will, transform our country. So the will is there. The guidance we have to give, the technocrats, and the fact that we have even had that kind of engagement and involvement during the formation of our digital transformation roadmap shows that we are willing and committed to sustain that. The earlier question on how sustainable this process is, I think we have to be intentional towards transformation. We have a digital transformation working group that constitutes government representation, private sector, academia, development partners, and we sit every quarter to assess our progress. So the topic before that talked about evaluation of the Foresight. We are doing evaluation at that level, not only for Foresight, but also for all the initiatives that we have. So yes, we have commitment and assured sustainability. Thank you.
Excellent. So thank you for the great questions, and the conversation doesn't have to stop here, so please do talk to these fantastic pioneers of government foresight. I also wanted to mention briefly, maybe some of you have seen the futures cards we developed, building on the UN principles on the future generations. So it's a gamified experience that helps practitioners to build diversity and inclusion in your processes, or even evaluate your process if you wish to use it that way. So we have a board back there with some colleagues with few decks remaining if you want one. But thank you for being here. Enjoy the rest of the day and conference. And thank you to Dubai Future Forum as well for creating this space.